What's up, humans, and welcome to a new Psicoactivo. Happy Monday, everybody. Second video of the day. I think it's time for us to talk about the big elephant in the room that nobody seems to want to address, about the hearings and about very clear division between those who report on this stuff and those who are trying to get the witnesses they consider the best for the upcoming hearings. Some of them are failing, some of them are not failing. And you can tell that there is a lot of frustration, at least on one of these two sides. And I think there are more than two sides. There are probably three or four of people who are known within the UFO community that want to get their witnesses in the stand, and they're not getting them. And we saw Michael Herrera coming out in a video he did on his UFO Twitter account, saying that whistleblowers shouldn't come forward because he didn't have the best experience. He was ignored, or I don't know exactly what happened, but he's not going to be testifying. There's also, for example, the Roderick Castle testimony that just came out more officially after Stephen Diener introduced him to us. He came out on UAP GURB's channel. I think it was last week. He claims to have seen a black triangle craft, and I don't know if he's going to be testifying, but there seems to be division there too, because some consider him a first-hand witness, others don't even believe his story, and there's a lot like that. I've been asking around with some of the folks involved, trying to get people on the stand, and I do hear that there are at least two that are confirmed, but they're not announcing them until like 2 days prior to the hearing that is reported to be on September 9. By the way, my friends at the night shift, Clint and Sander, are going to be at the hearing. You can go to their channel and see if you want to help them get there. There are ways you can go there. Also, Dan Cleary is going to be there, and there's a lot of people that are going to be there. I won't be there because I'm currently undergoing a transition process in my living arrangements, so I can't go. But I will be there in spirit, and I'm planning probably to make my very first live stream on that day. The problem is that the overall feeling, and this happened way back in the November hearings when I did that live stream with Christian Harloff, you can sense the frustration of people when there's like this feeling that the hearings are not real, like there's theater going on. And I happen to agree to a certain extent about this, because if you look at what people are trying to do from the government disclosure side, the people that are trying to be extremely careful about it and not violate any laws, not get in jail, all of this stuff, when you see what they're trying to do, it's kind of evident that one avenue is through that Age of Disclosure documentary. And the problem is that most of the people that I've seen talking about that film do tell me that Dan Farah and whoever is producing the film are trying to convey sort of like a threat narrative and talk about this superiority amongst countries and a fight for the technology and an arms race that they equate to the time when the atom bomb was trying to be built for the first time in the 40s. That is really concerning if governments are trying to do that and they're not disclosing other avenues, or at least trying to explore them, because I happen to think that there are other avenues. I'm not 100% sure of what these avenues might be, but I refuse to believe that the only avenue right now is the threat narrative and the perpetuation of weaponization of this technology and the perpetuation of war, which is happening right now. And if this trickles down to the UAP subject, that's a big problem. Another avenue and issue that I see is something that I talked about last week, and I've been talking about for a little while, is these tech companies trying to get a hold of the technology. If the technology exists, you guys saw that I came out with the statements from Michael, aka the civilian Axelrod, and recently there was an announcement from Skywatcher that James Fowler was leaving the team. he was getting a contract with the government. And there is kind of like mixed reactions to this. It seems like he took the technology he was using, but it also seems like the task that he was supposed to do was completed, and there was a lot of data that was compiled that still hasn't been processed. And if that's the case, then that's cool. I guess Skywatcher is going to come out with a lot of material, presumably, after they get to process the data that James Fowler left with his technology. I mentioned Michael and James because those two cases kind of seem like they both have some sort of new technology for tracking these things. And they both seem to have managed to get a contract or something, because if the government doesn't give Michael the contract that he wanted, he was going to go to a private company either way. So if we don't see more from him, I can assume that he already did that. So there seems to be like this emerging new wave of independent scientists and independent inventors that are coming out with new technology, and that you can see that it's no longer cool to disappear these inventors or to make them die under mysterious circumstances, which has happened over decades. The internet doesn't allow for that to happen that much anymore, because there's just too much information flowing, and people would know instantly if something like that happened. So now I think the way that these companies and even the government is trying to do it is more in the open, but trying to get them to shut up and give up their technology with money. Kind of seems that way. I don't know if that's the case, but you guys see the landscape, how this is all starting to form. And where does that leave the hearings? Given that there seems to be little to no hope that we're going to get legacy program people in the hearings to take the stand and testify under oath, people with hands-on experience, it's easy to see that maybe it is theater. And it just reminds me of something that AJ from the Y-Files said this past week that caused a really heated debate between UFO personalities. He said this about these whistleblowers that are coming forward in controlled manners and asking permission from the government. This is what AJ had to say on the Shawn Ryan Show, nonetheless. Listen to what he says. It's a really short clip.
But something's going on. I've seen videos. Most, I don't believe the whistleblowers. I don't believe anyone from Air Force intelligence. I don't believe any of that. And if you have a book out, I don't believe what you're saying. If you're cleared by the DOD,
I definitely don't.
I definitely don't. If you still have clearance and you're still a contractor and you're still working with DOD, I can't. You're not a whistleblower. You're doing PR. So, with all due respect, I don't believe you guys. Matthew Brown, I think his last name is Brown. He's kind of a compelling whistleblower because he doesn't go over the top. He just says, I found evidence of, something going on in space. And that's really all he says.
I don't know if that's an accurate representation of what Matthew is saying, AJ, but shout out to Red Panda Koala, by the way, for clipping this one. But it is interesting, though, that there's a lot of people that seem to think the exact same way AJ thinks. And I don't fault them one bit because of everything that I've told you just now about this government disclosure plan. Although we may get some sort of disclosure if this works, if the legislation works, if the hearings work, if whatever Jay Stratton and Dan Farr are trying to do with the movie works, it still feels like there is a lot of stuff that they're not sharing with the public, and it doesn't feel like full-on disclosure, because there's this culture of disclosure going on from the government side that started in 2017. But there's always been a culture of disclosure from the grassroots efforts that people want the entire truth. They don't want just half of it, or they don't want for information to come out with some aspects redacted because of national security. I get that they want to protect, for example, tech that they developed, but if that tech came from crash vehicles that are not from here or not made by humans, that changes the entire conversation. To me, and this is just a personal opinion, it doesn't matter if these aerospace companies created their own tech. If it was based on that, they should tell the public everything. If these vehicles are indeed not made by humans. Again, just a personal opinion, but I will show you another clip before I show you Ross's clip that talks about the theater. This other clip is from the Danny Jones podcast that just came out today, where retired Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet from the Navy talks about who he knows are part of these programs and the reason why the legacy program people that haven't come out yet don't want to come out and testify. So here is retired Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet. Thanks to Sentinel News for the clip. Here it is.
I knew people who touched the legacy program. I know them, and many of them are out already. Eric Davis, Hal Putoff, Jay Stratton was not in the legacy program, but he led the UAP task force. So he's seen a ton of UAP information that's not been declassified. And I trust him. Lou Elizondo, I trust him too. So these have all been in the mix, Carl Nell, and we're all saying the same thing. There's a lot of information that's being withheld from the public. Some of it should be released and the full story.
And what's stopping all this from being released? Like what?
It's the classification issues. We're too afraid.
What are people scared of?
Well, it's the government not really thinking it's good policy to say we can't protect our citizens, our airspace, our water space. That's a tough one to overcome.
Sure, I understand that.
And I'm not sure how they resolve that myself. Again, I'm here from the standpoint that the American people were a government by the people, for the people, that they deserve to know the nature of reality. And the government knows it. They should disclose some of that to our taxpayers.
And what is to stop like any of these people who have this top secret information, like from just coming out and saying it? Like what? Like other than losing your career,
jail time.
You could go to jail.
Oh yeah, these are all.
But wouldn't that just confirm it? If I came out tomorrow and I was part of some like deep access program.
What we're talking about is, and I've signed these myself. You get read into a program and you have a non-disclosure form that says, I acknowledge that if I divulge any of the information in this program, and it's a prerequisite before getting into the program. So you might not even know you're getting read into a UAP program. It might be, hey, we want to have you know about this because of your responsibilities, and we think you have a need to know. So first, before you get read in, sign this. And it says, I won't do anything or I can go to jail.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah. And actually, yes.
But the problem with that is in the public's eye, if you do come out and say some crazy stuff that I'm claiming this is true, and then you get thrown into jail, people are going to say, oh my God, it's true. They threw him in jail.
Yeah.
If it was bullshit, why would they put him in jail?
Well, so the good thing here is these, I don't know if they've been passed yet, but maybe I know that Burchett has introduced some whistleblower protection legislation to get around that.
It was interesting to see Danny Jones pressing Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet. Good job on that, because I would have asked similar questions, because that's where the debate lies. I don't know if we will get that Ed Snowden moment in this, because right now from the government disclosure side, it kind of seems like we do need something like that. Somebody who, quote unquote, takes one for the team, but nobody wants to go to jail. I don't know what the result of that would be if this person does reveal something that is like a hands down proof or hands down testimony, or releases a video of something, and they did sign NDAs and they do go to jail, and people realize that he went to jail for saying something like that. I don't know if after the fact there would be ways in which after the truth is out, this person can be pardoned or get full immunity or something like that. I would guess it's possible. I did talk to Alan Levine talking about this, and he mentioned that something similar to what Ross is about to tell you guys, that all of this seems to be theater, And Alan Levine did tell me that something that would work would be to get the Senate to act, to release everything that they've already seen. And if the people that are constituents of them press them, if there's enough people pressing them directly, they have to release everything that they've already been shown. And who's shown them stuff so far? Out of the people we know so far, Jake Barber claims to have already shown them everything. Jason Sands, although I know how people feel about him, Michael Herrera, David Grush, and a lot more have already spoken to the Senate, who are the ones who have the power to release this in the first place. And they haven't done it. You got to ask yourselves why that's not happening. And if you are an American citizen and you're interested in this topic, you should be calling the Senate every day, asking them to release this information. But this is Ross talking about this. And as you can see, he kind of thinks the same way. And I do too. Shout out to UAP James for the clip. Here you go.
The simple fact is national security does have to be protected. And as much as a lot of us may not like it, if there is technology or systems or weapons systems in particular, or propulsion systems and energy systems that have been developed in the black from non-human technology, I guess it's kind of inevitable that some senators in particular will collude in endeavouring to protect that from public knowledge, unless and until probably the president or the National Security Council, that really control the narrative on all of this, is going to say, you know what, guys, let's be honest with you. That's what's going on here. To some degree, the public hearings are a dog and pony show. You know, we're being shown and told what we're allowed to be told. There's a hell of a lot more that's known about inside the private skiffs, the secure skiffs inside the Congress, where briefings have been given. Congressmen and senators, congressional representatives and senators know a hell of a lot more privately than they do or can talk about publicly. And this is one of the dilemmas right now. And I sense a growing impatience from UAP social media that it's just not fair. And it's not fair. Absolutely, it's not fair. But the simple fact is, if the US does have classified, waived, unacknowledged special access programs operating under compartmentalized security clearances, and if these are in some way authorized by some kind of presidential executive order or presidential executive action directive or emergency action directive, the so-called PED, I guess there might be some perceived legal legitimacy for why this is all being kept secret. And I think we're just going to have to muddle on. And I don't think you're ever going to see the kind of disclosure that people are hoping for in the Congress. It's going to have to come from President Trump or whoever it is in the White House when the decision is made to be more candid with the public.
And that's where the debate lies, folks. And I don't know what you guys think about this. I don't know if you guys think it's a theater, just theater, dog and pony show, as Ross Coulthart stated. I still haven't decided on what's going on. My position is that I think there needs to be some sort of official government announcement of this. There needs to be, so more people are aware of it. And so less people think it's BS. Because right now, the majority don't even think it's real. Still, although it's growing, the topic, and it's always been mainstream since the 40s, literally, but it's never been regarded as something completely serious. Or those who even remotely think about it being serious, they get overwhelmed by the potential consequences of it being serious and real. But I do think that if we do want more people to get on board of this and start at least investigating it seriously, we do need some sort of official government acknowledgement. The problem is that there's just a lot of fuckery going on with the Senate, as you guys can see. There's a lot of theater going on with Congress people as well. Even if the upcoming people testifying on September 9 are convincing, for me, for example, if there's no legacy program people that have hands-on experience, or at least one of the hostile witnesses testifying there with a subpoena, people are not going to be happy. It's still going to be the same. I can only hope for other efforts that have nothing to do with the hearings to keep going on the wraps. I hope that's happening, though, so we can get that information from the Senate released. I think that's what we need. That or focusing on a single case that has everything. And I go back to when Jake Barber said that one of those cases is the Rendlesham Forest incident in 1980. And Rendlesham is being talked about right now way more than it was before. And it does seem to have every avenue covered of what a good UFO case should be like. And if they explore that, even though it may not be public, I think that could give us a way in, so to speak, to release that information from the Senate, because that's where the truth is. That's where a lot of stuff was shared in SCIF meetings and all that. And we need for that to be public. And again, I tell you, if you're a citizen from the US, you got to call your senators. You got to demand for them to release that information. To me, if the hearings don't work, even though they will raise more awareness in the public and get more people interested, I think that's the main goal of these hearings, not to necessarily get smoking gun evidence or something like that. But if you do call your senators and ask them to release that information, I think that's a better option to get what everybody wants, which is the smoking gun. But again, I tell you, these hearings, they seem to be theater, yeah, but they do have a purpose, in my opinion. And now when it comes to the legislation, that's a different story, because that's a whole other debate all by itself. I'll probably do a video about it as the time comes when I have to. But for now, I will leave you to let me know what you think about this. What do you think about Ross's statements? What do you think about this fear that Gallaudet's claim to have for coming forward, going to jail and all that? Or do you agree with AJ that all of these people that are doing this in a controlled fashion are just doing PR? Let me know what you think. It's a really interesting debate. Please be respectful in the comments. And yeah, let me know. If you like the content you see, I'm going to ask you to like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. That's all you need to do in order to help us, and it is what helps us the most, so thank you. But if you want to support us in other ways, there's a few links down there you can choose from. You can become a member in YouTube, or you can support us through KGRA. Anything you choose to do is always appreciated, so thank you. I got these two interviews with Alan Levine and Courtney Marquesani on the KGRA feeds for everyone. Check your favorite podcast platform, and it's there. Just look for Psicoactivo podcast. And that's it for me today on this video, but I'll see you guys in the next one. And remember, stay curious and inquisitive, like AJ from the Y Files. Always. Bye.